Welcome to the Goodman podcast, where we unravel the mysteries of emerging technologies. I'm Megan Darcy, the host, and I've got Raj Goodman Anand joining me as the all-seeing AI expert. I'm chatting you up, Raj. So you definitely know more than most people I know. So today's episode focuses on a crucial aspect of machine learning, transforming black box models into transparent, understandable systems. So Raj, maybe you can just kick us off by explaining the concept of, maybe the listeners don't even know what a black box is, but so maybe that's a good place to start. But black box to white box conversion in machine learning and why it's gaining such importance.
Yeah, great question there, Megan. Thank you for posing it. So I must say I'm a total AI enthusiast. I've always have been for many years. What got me into AI was bizarrely enough video games. I never thought I'd be an AI person, but as a small child, I was really into playing video games. I said to my parents, I'm going to build video games for living, and they said, go figure it out. And so one thing led to the other, and I got into doing my master's in AI, actually with a PhD. But I couldn't finish it because I didn't have the money to pay for it. So I just did like a couple of years, and they said, you know what, you can have a master's instead. So off you go. Um, but but either ways, what's interesting is that over the years I figured out that AI is actually building a human brain in a computer. That's what really AI is. It's about adding intelligence to a mechanical or electronic thing, which is the servers, the GPUs, the computer itself. Many a times, if you're looking into technology engineering, there's a thing called a black box. A typical black box is all about this. It's about a box, an input, and an output. Why is it called a black box? Because we don't know what's going to happen in the box itself. We don't know what's happening in the box. All we know is we enter this and we get that out. It's a bit like a machine or in a factory. You enter the raw materials and out comes the cake, or out comes the biscuits, or out comes the plastic molded bit which you want to get out from it, for example, or out comes the car, whatever you want to call it. So it's about input and output. And it's built in that way to kind of make life easier for most of us. We don't want to know what's happening in the box. All we care about is what we put in and what we get out, right? That's a black box concept. A white box, on the contrary, is a space where we know what's happening in the inside of that box. So we are able to trace the understanding of why did I get this output when I put this input. It's really interesting to have this, especially when you care about the workings of how the machine worked or how did the process work. And it's not always a requirement, but sometimes it is important. So how does it apply to AI? In most AI use cases, the user doesn't care about how did you get the answer. All they care about is they put a prompt in or they put an input in and they got their image out or their content out. They don't care about how it actually happened. But there is a push towards understanding what are the inner mechanics or the steps it took to give you the answer. Why is that? Well, we all know that AI hallucinates, i.e., you give it an input, you expect an output, but it kind of takes a tangent and goes in its own direction. That can make AI unreliable. But if you can understand the steps it takes to achieve the output, you can create it better and can get the right output every time. And that's why there is a push from the neural networks which are used to program the AI or the deep learning happening in the AI for it to be a total mystery to in a black box to what we call a white box where we understand how the tools work. So we can understand what's happening and give better instructions. Now, this is a whole area of AI called XAI, Explainable AI. And in the coming years, we'll see a massive push in this direction because people want to know how did AI decide this over another? They chose A over B or 1 over 5. All these need to be answered. And so XAI is going to be a very popular space and is currently being a space where people are putting a lot of money in.
Mm, mm. Um, I don't know if maybe I'm going off on a little tangent here, but it's very much like if you can draw a parallel between climate change, and this kind of black box explainability issue. We all switch the light on, or we all perform a Google search, for example, without really understanding the energy requirement of the enter button and the impact that it has on climate change, for example. So I think that it makes me happy in a way that we're trying to understand how these things work, because by not understanding, we're very disconnected from that thing. If you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I think that it is going to be a big thing moving forward to help us understand the inner workings of AI.
I agree. I think also, again, being a student of mathematics and engineering at school and at university, there were two kinds of school of thought at university and school. One was, I don't care how do you get the answer. If the answer is correct, you get full marks. The
Mm,
other one
mm,
was, I don't care about the answer. I care about the process you adopted or adapted to kind of reach the answer. And again, you have professors in both of these different school of thoughts.
mm,
But for me, I'm very curious to learn about what is the cause of the answer. So even if it hallucinates into is the answer incorrect at the last stage and it got 95% of it right, I can still learn from it. So I think these steps
mm,
are really important. And to your analogy and the idea of climate change, there is a value in understanding where does the energy come from? Is it clean
mm,
energy? Is it using solar and wind, for example, or is it fossil fuel energy? And so that also makes an impact on how we consume it. You're right about, for example, the consumption of a Google search or, to get a response from AI. It all costs money and energy, and it's good to know that what's happening. But in this case, with the AI, it's about how the whole tree formation on how it decides to give you the answer it says it's good. So if we take a path, you give it, should I go left or should I go right? And it says
mm,
right. It'll explain why right is the correct answer and not the left one, for
mm.
example. So
Yeah,
you can also
yeah,
learn from that as well.
yeah, yeah. Now, that will obviously kind of help further down the line, aid in the identification and correction of errors within AI models, by understanding how they work. And will that kind of further down the line help curb stuff like perpetuation of bias in the algorithms and that kind of thing? I imagine it would.
Yeah, so um, it's interesting as human beings and as content creators, we are meant to have biases. So as writers, editors, thought leaders, we're meant to have biases. We prefer party A versus party B. We prefer cold versus hot. We prefer spicy versus bland food, for example. We have
Mm,
preferences, and that's actually a good thing. Good to have a, a feeling. It's part of human nature. But when it comes to AI algorithms, biases are not a good thing. It's meant to be neutral. It has to be neutral so that it allows it to give the right answer for the people who are entering stuff and not be able to direct them forcefully in a particular area or particular direction. That's what the biases do to
mm,
people.
mm,
Now, according to few interviews I've been listening to from the OpenAI founder Sam Altman and other experts as well, in the coming years, the next phases of launch will see biases, and their story about it that there will be biases there. but they will then have to remove it when they get a chance to kind of minimize the biases. And using something called weights, you can do weights and biases are two different elements. You can actually add weights to reduce the biases or increase the biases, for example. So it will help to identify what the weights and biases are for each AI tool. But again, to reach that stage will take a lot more effort. It takes much more effort to actually build programs that can transparently tell why they're doing particular task in the way they're doing. So it'll take more energy, more computation power, and more effort to document that and then to present that to the customer or the end user. So that for me is a challenge and an opportunity. As I mentioned, explainable AI, XAI is currently a big field of AI. A lot of people are talking about it and researching in this space, and there's a lot of money being put into it. There will come a time when this will become a requirement for every AI tool because people want to know why does it give this kind of answer. It's a bit like media. Today we have some media which supports one side over the other, and they are biased towards different sources, for example. And as human beings, we prefer that is mentioned and clarified up in the open so that we can then decide where do we belong, for instance.
Essentially, it's kind of increasing the transparency in these machine learning models to build more trust among the users and the stakeholders. So it's not just taking the answer of an AI as the word of God. It's understanding how it got to that outcome, and being able to see the thought process, and obviously that would allow you to pick up where it might be going wrong as well.
That's correct. And if we look at the recent changes which are happening in AI tools, now they give you an answer, but they also caveat it with a lot of information about it. So if you ask for like, hey, summarize this article for me, the summary is here. Before the summary, you have a different section talking about why it did what it did, and then it kind of gives you a summary at the bottom as well. That's all part of this is XAI mission. They want to be more transparent about how it did it, but it's still not anywhere near where it should be because really that's the answer it gave you. It didn't talk about the path it took to come to the answer. So that part is still missing, and that's going to be a ton more documentation which you can see if you want to check it out. Again, this happens regularly when you're looking at other tools, for example. So when you look at, say, an Uber application and you get a bill at the end of your journey or your ride or your trip, it tells you how it calculated the entire calculation at the end and gives you the breakdown of it. That same style will be required for AI as well. And that's part of the XAI sort of mission, which we're looking at the Whitebox mission we have in the coming years.
Yeah. So to kind of round off this conversation, where are we on the path to true XAI? I mean, obviously everything is on a kind of a sliding scale, but like you said yourself at the beginning of this conversation, neural networks are based on human neural networks in the brain, and there's so much that we don't know about the human brain. Now we're modeling AI on something that we still can't really explain. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what I've kind of read and researched, there's still tons that we don't know about how the brain works and how the neural networks inside of a human brain work. So how far down the line are we? Are we going to get to true explainable AI, or are we always going to be kind of one step behind because we don't really know how these things work?
Well, it's a hard one to say. As I mentioned before as well, it's really hard to predict the level of advancements we can achieve with AI because no one really knows the answer. Also, there's an element of what we call gut instinct. When I ask you, hey, do you like this or this? And you just go, this one. And you're like, why? My gut tells me that this is a better product, for example, right? that gut feeling is hard to explain. It's just feeling we have. And there will be an element of that as well. But in theory, it is possible to achieve to a good extent the transparency in what path AI has taken to achieve that goal. But in some cases, it might not be possible, or the time and the power consumption it takes to achieve that is not worth the time. For certain use cases, it doesn't matter if you followed path A or path B, you just want the answer. So I feel the answer is going to depend upon what is the context and how critical is the reliability on the answer. In some cases where we need to cite this for, say, democracy, for example, election results, that's a big challenge to look at, or financial, one mistake could cost us trillions. We'll want to know every step. In other cases where, flip a coin, if it's heads or tails, today should I have a cheat meal or not? I don't think we're going to care too much about that. We'll just let it be. Either way, I'm just going to have what I'm going to have. So it comes down to the context, and I feel that we're still in early stages of Whitebox in AI, but there's a lot more to come, and there's going to be some excellent technologies which will help us decipher the path it takes inside a neural network or AI in the coming years.
So standing where we are right now, which is the end of January 2024, we're not quite at that complete white box explainable AI yet, but things are getting better. The models that we have now are definitely better than what initially came out when AI started being consumed by the masses. How do you today make sure that what your interaction with the AI and what the AI is providing for you can be explainable? Are we at this stage just accepting what the AI spits out, but then have to research on the back end to make sure it's plausible or correct? Is there a prompt you can include when you're interacting with an AI? Do you query the AI to kind of prove? I mean, a lot of these kind of additional prompts give the AI additional opportunity to hallucinate. So it's not necessarily a silver bullet. But how can you make sure that at this stage what you're getting out of the AI is explainable?
Yeah, great question there, Megan. Thank you. The first thing I'd say is that one thing we can do as users is to have better prompts. One of the prompts that you can enter is when you enter a prompt, for example, calculate the sum of these two numbers and then give me the right answer. You can say, break the answer down step by step. So by breaking it down step by step, you can actually see the workings of how did it compute the answer for you. That's one thing which can be applied to calculations, decisions, planning, training, you name it. That could be included. Just to break it down step by step as a sub prompt will really help. Number two is use tools, and this has been a big push right now in OpenAI as well, but it's already been there in other tools, is to have source of information. You can actually query to provide source of the information where possible. In most cases, you will do a real-time search to find the source of information. So say, for example, create me an essay about the Roman Empire, and then for every part, provide me a source. So we'll then find links to kind of give you the references for different quotes, for example. Number three, this is already happening as part of the evolution of AI. Most AI providers like Anthropic, like OpenAI are already providing sources of it, and also secondary tools like Perplexity using their third-party searches alongside with OpenAI to create sources anyway. So we're seeing that the shift happening anyway. So in the coming years, we'll see that things have become more transparent. There will be a bit more data available to see why it gave you the answer, but using better prompting, you can also try to break it down. As I mentioned to you, it's still early stages because some of the details we require to really understand the answer is still not available. Even we can't tell when you have to come up with a complex answer. Why did we choose A over B or 1 over 5? So we can't expect it to happen with a machine as well. This will take a lot more effort, and it'll take a lot more sort of computational power and energy to achieve that. So again, we can just start that process today, but there's a long way to go to really get the responses in a very transparent way so you get every bit responded. Also, as I mentioned before, some of this will not be relevant at all. It's not required for some of the use cases anyway. So let's make sure we kind of mix and match it to kind of fit our use cases.
Yeah. For any listeners interested, Raj does have a couple of videos on the YouTube channel that dives into prompting and the step-by-step stuff on working with AI. We'll include a link to that in the show notes as well. But yeah, thank you again, Raj, for sharing this with us. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. Don't forget to hit subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And join us again next time for more insights into the technology shaping our future. Thanks again, Raj.
Thank you, Megan.